Thanks for having me, first of all. It's a nice way to start the year. It feels, I'm very optimistic, even though things are a little crazy. So I am a longtime advertising and marketing executive. I spent 30 years in that business. And towards the end of my career, I was running agencies. I was the CEO of J. Walter Thompson, New York. Before that, I was the president at Arnold. And I had kind of just hit the wall, I guess you'd say. I just didn't feel there was anything else really to accomplish in that business. And I also wasn't loving what I was doing so much anymore. I got into advertising to build brands and to use creativity to solve business problems. And I found I was dealing with a lot of operational, legal, HR, finance issues all day long, which was not really my sweet spot of fun. So I left, and this is definitely a midlife move because I was 51. So I left advertising, and I started a consultancy. I was working almost exclusively with startups, but then the universe intervened, which sometimes happens and you have to listen when it does. And I met my co-founder, James, in 2018. And by the way, we're the same age. So there's that. And he'd been working on these hair care formulations for about 10 years. And he had gotten them to a point where they were, quite good, but he didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to bring them to market. He didn't have a brand. He didn't really have anything. So we just really clicked and decided to go into business together and launch Masami, which is our clean premium hair care brand. It took us about 18 months to go from us meeting, agreeing to do it together, and then working out everything, because there's a lot of stuff you have to do to launch a business, as probably a lot of people know. So we figured out the brand name and the trademark and the packaging and the Shopify site and all that stuff. And we officially launched in February of 2020. But one of the things that I want to talk about, because it's critical for especially entrepreneurs, is the importance of networking and building a network. Because when I was in advertising, I was always doing that. I was always meeting interesting people and learning from different people. But can't speak today. Advertising is a very sort of insular industry. So you end up kind of just talking to yourselves a lot. And it's also very heavily testosterone dominated, as probably anyone that's watched Mad Men knows. And I'm old enough to have dealt with quite a bit of that. I started in 1989. So for many, many years in my career, I definitely felt the sexism, some of it overt, some of it not, the glass ceiling, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of it I felt had to do with men forming these little cliques that you just weren't part of. And I had one agency that I worked at where the men would go running together. Well, I'm not a runner. Or they'd play golf together. Well, I don't play golf. Or they go to strip club. No, thank you. Yeah. And so when I was in advertising, I kind of built my own network of women, diverse people, and that was great. But now as an entrepreneur, it's even more important because you're really on your own. You don't have the benefit of instant friends from people that you work with. You know what I mean? You really have to go find people and find like-minded people. So I've worked pretty hard to do that. And I will say, I think the networking falls into kind of three categories. The first is peers, finding people who are literally doing what you're trying to do, launch a business, in the thick of it. There's so much to learn and share and vent even with that group of people. And I've now built a whole sort of circle of female founders that has been invaluable. I mean, the lessons, the tips, the tricks, all of it. Benchmarks, even just knowing, okay, January is a rough month for everybody. Okay, good. It's not just me.
Right.
So that's the group number one that I think is critical. Group number two is people that you can learn from. And I would say they're not always people more experienced than you. Sometimes they can be. It can be people that are in a part of the business you don't know well. I mean, I was not very well versed in the investing side of the business. So now I have a few VC friends that I can bounce things off of, and that's been super helpful. But also the younger people that are on my team, I learn from them constantly. My teenagers, my God, you know, TikTok. There's so many things that they're teaching me all the time. And then the third group of networking is people that you can share your learning to. And I've had a number of people just reach out to me cold on LinkedIn and ask for advice. And there's one woman who I mentor. I talk to her probably once a month and we kind of talk about what's working and what doesn't work. I've never met her in person. She literally reached out to me on LinkedIn. And that's important too, because not only are you you're sort of completing the circle and helping somebody else, but you're also learning from them too along the way. So anyway, so I'll stop there and see if you have questions, but I think I was going to say, I have some ideas on where people can find these groups, but I'm sure you have questions.
Yeah, no, that was, it's so interesting because there is kind of the, old boys network or whatever in some of these, or I don't know what you call it, boys club or something, in some of these very traditional work environments. And then when you're going off on your own, it's so important, like you say, to find people who get what you're going through, who've been there, who can either commiserate or celebrate with you, like your peers, people who can lead, who have led the way, and can mentor you, can provide input, can shore up areas where you're not as well versed, and the whole giving back, the whole idea of you then paying it forward and helping other people of any age, because so many of us in midlife are also starting businesses, to get started without having to reinvent the wheel, right? Whether there are some things, some tips and tricks and advice that can be helpful to everybody. So I just love that you made that leap, first of all, in midlife. And that's, like I said, it's not like it's that unique, but you were so well established that I think it took a lot of guts to leave such a, sort of prominent and comfortable position, because you weren't feeling fulfilled and you knew there was more, that you had more to offer in a different way to the world. So I just find that so brave and inspirational. So thank you for sharing your story and for encouraging everybody to surround themselves with people, a community, a tribe, and it sounds like it's mostly women. So I wanted to ask you about that. Is it most of these people that you're talking about, your support network, are they mostly women, or is it like the peers who are women who started businesses who can understand the challenges you may have, or is it industry specific? Like what is, or do you feel like men and women can be supportive to each other?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think you need men too, for sure, because men have amazing networks and men are not afraid to ask for anything. So you need to tap into that. So that's important. But I will say some of my best sort of most helpful and supportive groups are the female founders, for sure. Just because there's a generosity, there's a vulnerability, there's an openness to sharing. It's not competitive. There are a number of founders that work in the wellness, who have brands in the wellness and clean beauty space, but we don't compete. In fact, what we've been doing since COVID, because I launched in February, right before COVID,
Right.
and so did a couple of these other brands now. We've been actually partnering together. So we're doing blog posts together. We're, sharing out content. We're doing live streams together. We're doing things to boost each other, which has been great. But I do think There are lots of ways you can build your network to get what you need, and it's not exclusive to women. So I'll give a few ideas. I'm a member of BetaWorks, which is in New York City, and it's a makers community. And I've been a member there really since like 2018. That's been a great community to tap into for advice, for just, bouncing ideas off of people. A lot of those people tend to be more technical, more engineering, more, which is not me. So it's been a really nice collaborative environment because they are like, they have no idea about branding and positioning and the things I do. And I really don't know what they do.
When you say makers, what does that mean?
Like people that are founding businesses, a lot of them are in the tech side.
Yeah.
So they
that term, yeah.
Yeah, so they consider themselves makers or builders. So what I like about that is, like I said, it's more like we have complementary but different points of views on things.
Right.
And so it's important to find that too. So you're not just finding people that are like you and going through the thing, but also finding people that have a different perspective. So that fulfills, for me, that group fulfills that. And when I need an outside perspective or a tech perspective, or I need to go, hey, does anyone know anyone who can do beehive monitoring? Just some random thing, I get like 4 answers from that group. So that's useful. There are some female founder groups, though, that are extraordinarily helpful, and I will share those. One is called Paylor. They launched last year, I believe, Pailor. And what I like about them is they match women in what they call like test flights of, I think, 6, maybe 8 women together, who then you meet with regularly, and you get to build a rapport and you get to know them. And it's a nice concept because it definitely creates more of a community and a connection. So that's a good one if anyone is looking for sort of like-minded people to find and join.
Match you by, did you say by industry or by? No.
It's more by what you're looking for. So, and it can be a little random, but most of the women in there are founders, and they're, kind of going through similar things, even if their business isn't in the same industry as yours. And then the crew is also another one, CRU, that is very similar. And they also kind of put together groups of women. I also found the Facebook groups have been quite useful, like really useful. And that's actually how we met, I believe.
Yes.
Helen.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I feel like there's so many interesting Facebook groups where it's like women helping women, women entrepreneurs. You can find just about anything on those groups, and that's super valuable as well. And then if you also are a woman who's got a service business or a product, the W Marketplace just launched about 2 months ago, and that's a great resource also. We're on there, Masami's on there. But what I like about them is they do these monthly meetups with the people that are on there. So if you have a service, you're a designer, you're a lawyer, whatever, you can put your service on there, meet other women that are on there. And that's another useful place. And then one more I'm going to throw out there. Sorry, I'm throwing a lot out there, but
I love it.
Would be Doe. Doe is also basically supports female-owned brands. And that's another good one that's really supportive of the community. And I've met quite a few other founders through some of the these sort of retail partners, if you will, or e-commerce partners. So that's another good way to think about it. If you're on, like we're on a site called Boutique. There are some other great brands I've met just through them. So, you can reach out, find other brands, see who's interested in connecting. I've had my bad experiences too, where there are brands that don't show up, say they're going to do something, don't follow through. There are always those, but it's pretty quick, pretty easy, and you can quickly weed out the ones that are more like-minded and are sort of wanting to be generous and collaborate and build something and partner and do the things you want to do.
And did you find, first of all, will you put some of those resources in the comments with the links?
Yeah, sure.
Afterwards, I would love that. Not now, but like
Yep.
afterwards, that would be great. Did you find these like organically, or is it kind of like you're doing Google searches and looking for these things, or is it like you go into one and people are talking and then you go, I mean, is it all just people kind of, letting each other know where to go, what kind of groups there are? I mean, how do you recommend people find these?
Yeah, it definitely was much more organic for me. I wasn't really like searching it out, but what's new in one, and then you start to connect, and then you'll
Right.
hear about another. That's kind of how it's happened. And then now, because I have this really strong network of female founders, when the W Marketplace launched, I introduced about a dozen of them to that because I was like, guys, do you know about this? Get on there. So I think that's how a lot of it happens. And I kind of think that's how a lot of the men do it too. It's like giving each other, intros or whatever. And that's, oh, one more thing I don't want to forget is a lot of women, me included, for a long time, I did not want to have to like ask for like,
Right.
I don't want to put somebody out. I don't want to have to ask for an introduction to that person, even though I know this person knows that person. You know what I mean? You just feel like,
Right.
do I know them well enough to ask? Men
Right.
don't even have those thoughts. It literally doesn't even cross their mind.
Right.
It's like, of course I may have met that person once 20 years ago, but of course I'm going to ask them for something,
Right.
like so I've gotten a lot better at like just reaching out if I see that, oh, I need to make this connection and there's somebody in my network that could do that for me, or I need help. I just did this the other day. I needed to find insurance for my business that was more workable. And people will be more generous than you think. I think that's my 2 cents on
Yeah.
that.
And the worst that can happen is they don't respond, or they say, I'm sorry,
Right.
I can't, or whatever. So it's, why not take the chance? Because in a lot of cases they will say yes. And I definitely believe in, one thing leads to another. And so I love the whole organic thing. And I feel like social media is a very interesting place too. I mean, I'm a huge believer in Facebook groups. Now, I get into some of them and I realize that all it is people promoting themselves day in, day out, and nobody's really supporting each other. It's just everybody's posting about their own stuff. And then I just leave those groups. And that's why in my own Facebook group, I have a dedicated day where people can promote themselves, because I don't want this to be a spammy site with everybody just out for themselves and selling. There are lots of groups like that. So, but finding the groups where it's more about the connection and the conversation and outlets for that communication, I think, and then with an opportunity also to promote a little bit, which is really nice. That's sort of the sweet spot that I'm striving for in my group, and that I see that the groups I stay in, the groups that I really, connect with, are the ones where there's that, that community feel and that exchange of ideas and information. And also an opportunity to kind of showcase yourself and say, here's what I'm doing, and support other people, entrepreneurs or coaches in my case, or whatever it is. Although I'm in a lot of entrepreneur groups also, which is really fun. So and then LinkedIn has been a recent interest of mine. I know you're on LinkedIn. Obviously, you've probably been for a long time. I have not. For me, it's on LinkedIn. What I've been doing is kind of taking a look at complementary coaches. For instance, like a coach who's a divorce coach is somebody, oftentimes women in midlife who are going through divorces are searching for themselves and figuring out, what do I want out of the rest of my life, which is where I come in. And then I often have clients who are in, struggling in their divorce or in their marriages and are looking for referrals. So it can be a really nice, back and forth. It can be a really nice exchange of support. So I've now been tapping into LinkedIn a little bit to make some connections there, and have ended up, getting on Zooms with some coaches, and then I'm going to be featuring one of them in one of these videos. So, so I don't know how you've used LinkedIn or other social media. I know you mentioned Facebook already.
Yeah, I'm similar. I've been very active on LinkedIn for a long time. I get a lot of requests. I try to weed out like I will accept somebody that looks like, I guess I will accept somebody that looks like there could be a positive exchange. I'll just say it that way.
Well,
But
I think I know what you mean. That's as opposed to I'm not accepting people who are I'm the help you grow your I'm going to help you
yes,
grow your business to 100K,
yes,
my whatever system. You
correct.
know, I'm not because I know the times I have accepted those, there's immediately a robo message that shows up telling me all the ways in which they're going to help me and to, you know, tap into their one-on-one taster session or whatever it is.
I'm
Like
with
I've clued
you.
in now. Yeah.
I get a lot of those. So I want like the ones that feel like they're exactly like automated,
Yes.
broad
Scale. It's
reaching
all about
scale,
selling,
right?
selling.
I don't do those, but if somebody I don't know sends me a note and it's like, hey, I want to connect for these reasons, or we have mutual people, or I'm in a complementary business, I'm always
Yeah.
willing to connect. That is easy. But yeah, there's been more and more of the spammy ones lately, I find, like a
It's
lot. I mean, lately I've
so,
been getting ones from people saying, I'm reaching out to dentists. Can you fill out this?
oh my,
And I go, I'm not a dentist. Why would you think I'm a dentist? I have
right.
nothing to
Right.
do with that.
Very
And they don't
strange.
even like bother looking to see that
Right.
that is nothing to do with me. So LinkedIn has gotten a little bit more like that, but I do think it's super valuable and useful. And like I said, I've met people through LinkedIn just
Yeah.
because they've reached out to me cold. And also like these days, pretty much anyone is and everyone is on LinkedIn. So if my attitude is like, if I want to meet a salon and I can't somehow figure out how to get in there,
Right.
chances are I can ping somebody on LinkedIn.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Or you know somebody who knows them, you know, you've got
yeah,
like a mutual whatever, so you can go get to them that way. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm still trying to figure out where all the social media and, you know, and figure out, I mean, I think Facebook is my primary one. I think LinkedIn's really good. I get a lot of traction from Pinterest, which is really
oh,
interesting to
interesting.
me.
Yeah,
Well,
that is
because
interesting.
women in midlife live there more than on Instagram, for instance. So I just haven't gotten the real knack of that. So I got to get a Pinterest person to come and talk to us about Pinterest because it's, I had somebody do templates for me. I mean, I don't really get it. It's a search engine. It's kind of like YouTube and Google. Apparently
It's
it's a
just a
search
visual
engine.
search
Yeah,
engine if you think of it that
right.
way.
I
But
guess that's
we're
just,
very
yeah,
heavily on Pinterest. And to your point, like it's interesting because we get a lot of traffic from Pinterest to our site, but not a lot of
right.
not a lot of conversion.
Oh,
It's more
okay,
like
right.
discovery, you know, people
Yeah,
use it
yeah,
for
yeah.
just, but I like Pinterest and I find it easy and, but we're also on Instagram and we're on everything, you know, when you have a
I
brand,
know, right.
it,
Yeah,
it's hard. Like, I think when you're more in the service business, you can be a little more selective of, and I think you're right, Facebook and
yeah.
LinkedIn are probably the best ones for you, but we're also on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on, you know, we're on everything.
You're on
Um,
everything. Yeah. I mean, it's just how many hours of the day do you want to spend on that? And certainly when you're starting your business, when you don't have a staff yet or whatever, for, you know, some of us who are solopreneurs, it's just, I've got to choose. I think it's helpful. You know, my dream is to get a VA or so. And now
I
that I'm saying
know.
this, I'm going to be inundated with requests, but VA or social media person to take that over for me because it's not my love, you know, it's not what I love to do. So but it's necessary and it is, I mean, it has expanded my network for sure. I mean, I love the Facebook group is probably my favorite place to hang out. So
Mm.
um, because there are so many interesting women in the group and in other groups. So I just find that as a community, very important. But like you said, I mean, in COVID, it's strange because it's so much online. Obviously, I'm assuming, well, you started your business right before COVID. So I don't know if you feel like after COVID that you'll feel like there's an opportunity more for in-person networking. Like, what's your thought on
Oh
in-person
yeah.
versus online, you know?
No, for sure. And I miss that because I had a very social existence before, you know, I would be in New York 2 weeks out of the year or out of the month, yeah, 2 weeks out of every month. And then I'd be in the West Coast and I'd be traveling, visiting, different partners and salons. And now it's like so hard. But yeah, I think things will hopefully open up and get a little bit more social again, which will be for a lot of us, much needed.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. But I mean, look, I can't complain. In the meantime, we're all doing the best we can, just making it work. But I think it is a lot easier to network when you can meet somebody in real life,
Yeah.
feel like you kind of can connect with them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, it's a different, there's a depth there that you can achieve when you're sitting over a glass of wine and you're having a conversation in person. That's a little different. I mean, Zoom's better than a call in some ways, like the phone call, like when you actually can see each
yeah.
other. And but I know everybody's so tired of Zoom.
Well, and then there's the Zoom pressure of looking okay. Like I was telling you just before
Right.
you hit, record, like was late this morning getting it because I just had a busy morning and I'm really dedicated to doing my yoga every morning. And I just did my yoga and I just showered and my hair's still wet. And I'm like, you know what, it is what it is.
It is what it is. And yeah, no, I'm with you. It's just not that's not what's critical in terms of connection. And that is the part I like, is not feeling like I have to dress a certain way, or, when I'm having these conversations, and even though it's recorded and everything, I feel like I can show up the way I am, and we're, all kind of stuck at home, and it's okay. So there's no, even though I'm kind of looking forward to dressing up and going out a little bit more at some point,
Yeah.
it's okay that we're all kind of casual right now, and we're all just making do and doing the best we can. So anyway, well, it was so nice of you to come on and share so much wisdom, so many great resources. Really, really appreciate it. I'm just loving this so much and loving meeting so many fabulous women. So thank you again. And until next time.
Thank you.